Are Swedish people afraid of this? Before I get into what this is, I want to tell a little bit of a backstory about somebody I met at a party to give you guys some context. So I was recently talking to a girl at a party who was born in Ukraine, who had been dating a guy in Sweden for about 4 years. And we were talking about relationships, what it was like to date people from different countries and all of these sorts of things. And we got to talking about her current relationship status and situation. And she said that her and her boyfriend were doing what was called a provseparering. I think that was the word. It was either provseparering or provseparation. For those of you guys that do not speak Swedish, basically what this word means is that it's like a trial separation or a trial breakup. So here's a person that she had dated for 4 years and they agreed that something wasn't working with their relationship. So instead of just breaking it off completely, they decided to do a 3-month trial run of being not together just to see how it felt, and they agreed that in 3 months' time, they would come back and sync up and discuss how it went, whether they want to move forward with a breakup or continue to work on their relationship and go back together. As an American, I found this to be sort of a foreign concept and something that was a little bit surprising. I think a lot of times in America, people are more confrontational, and when it's time to break up, people are more like decisive with a decision. And I think in some ways, Swedish people are sort of afraid to take that decisive action, to be very committed to that thing. They want to sort of test the waters, if that makes sense. And I started to think about in other aspects of Swedish life where this mentality plays itself out. And you can also see it, for example, in the workplace. When you get offered a new job, I think in Sweden it's relatively easy to get offered a new job if you meet the qualifications and if you do a good job on your interview. But most employers, they'll start you off with a 6-month contract called a provsanställning. Kind of like a provseparation, like a practice breakup. This is like a test employment period for this first 6 months that you're working for that new employer. And basically, if the new employer doesn't like you, or if you don't like the new employer, within that first 6 months, it's very easy to stop working where you are. But after that 6-month period and you get a more permanent contract, you're sort of in a more committed situation with your job, if that makes sense. Now, in these two instances, when it comes to relationships and breakups and getting a job, I think it makes a lot of sense to test the waters a little bit and test something out to see if it is a good decision. Collect more data points, see what it's like being single, doing that test separation, and then coming back around and syncing up and making a decision that's good for everyone. Same with employment. It's good to have that first initial 6-month trial period to make sure that everybody's happy. And I think a lot of that goes together with this socialistic culture in Sweden of wanting to make sure everybody's happy, wanting to make sure both sides are on board. And it's very, very interesting because having been through a lot of breakups with girls from many different countries, it seems like going through a breakup in Sweden, it would seem more like a mutual decision. Whereas in a lot of cases in America, it's like one side wants to break up, the other side wants to keep going, and it just comes to a standstill. Whereas like when I broke up with Lynn, for example, it was a very, very mutual decision. We both realized that we were growing apart, that we were going in different directions in our lives, and we're still friends and we still talk to each other once in a while to this day. And I don't think I could say that about any of my ex-girlfriends back in America. So are Swedish people afraid of commitment? Are they afraid to make a very decisive action one way or another?
Okay, attack on my command! Yes, Captain! That is if you feel like it. I mean, I don't have to decide everything all the time. You want to make a decision?
Oh, maybe it's Ingrid's turn.
Okay.
Ingrid, do you want to attack? You want to attack?
I think we should have a group discussion about this.
That's a good idea!
We should bring in Lasse.
Yes!
Lasse, yes. You want to attack?
Here is one that very much confuses me. The two examples that I mentioned so far, I can get on board with. Those make sense to me, but here's one that makes no sense at all to me. And I've talked about this in videos before, but because I'm talking about this specific subject in this video, I think it sort of relates as well. And this has to do with the concept of getting married. Now, in America, pretty much in most cases, before a couple has kids, they make that commitment to each other to get married. Now, I'm not a very religious person, but I grew up in a family that was religious. I'm not anymore. But even though I'm not religious, as most people in Sweden are not super religious either, even though I'm not like that, I still think that before I have kids and bring human beings into this world with somebody else, I want to make that commitment to my partner that this is the person that I want to spend the rest of my life with before I have kids. And I have a lot of friends here in Sweden that are my age that have been in long-term committed relationships with a partner that are having kids with them, and they're not married, and marriage isn't anywhere on the horizon. And this is sort of mind-blowing to me personally. I remember talking to some Swedish people in the past, and the way they sort of described it was like, yeah, we want to have kids with this person to see if it's going to work, being a family together, and we want to have the kids first to try it before we commit to marriage. In my head, that's sort of backwards because I don't want to have kids with somebody until I'm very much committed to that person. Now, there could be other factors because marriage is expensive and maybe there's not as many benefits to getting married in Sweden as there would be, for example, in America from a tax perspective or from laws and legalities perspective. There's more weight carried by a marriage in the US than it is here in Sweden. But really, when I got to thinking about it, it seems like a lot of these concepts sort of tie together, and I hadn't really thought of it until I met this girl at a party that was talking about her trial single period after a breakup. So let me know what you guys think. Am I onto something? Are Swedish people afraid of commitment? Are they afraid to take decisive action? Now, of course, this is me just generalizing because there's all types of people in every country, but I just love picking up on these little nuances that I'm sort of picking up while I'm living here as an American in Sweden and sharing them with you guys. Hopefully at least stimulate some good discussion. So I'd love to see what you guys think below in the comment section. With that being said, guys, thanks so much for watching this one, and I'll see you in another video.